Vinita, please let me know when to start. Huh?
Yeah, Mataji, 7:25, another 3 more minutes, we'll wait.
Okay, sure. Thank you.
Mataji, you stopped your share screen. Why?
I was looking at something in the PowerPoint, so I will share.
Okay.
You can see now?
Yes, Mataji.
Okay, let me know when to start. Okay, you said 7:25. Okay. 1 more minute, we'll start. Okay, Hare Krishna, everybody. There, I think few more people may join later, but I think we will just start the class now.
And there are many people who follow the YouTube also, Mataji. They see on the recording because not everybody can join the live classes. They are being following on YouTube too. Thank you so much, Mataji, for your valuable time and association today for the Isopanishad verse number 7. Please take over the call, Mataji.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Vinita. Yeah, so I hope everybody can see my screen, right? So we will just start with the invocation prayers. Would anybody like to recite the invocation prayers? Or I could recite too, it's not a problem. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkest ignorance, and my spiritual master opened my eyes with the torch of knowledge. I offer my respectful obeisances unto him. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. I offer my respectful obeisances unto His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, who is very dear to Lord Krishna, having taken shelter at his lotus feet. Our respectful obeisances are unto you, O spiritual master, servant of Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami. You're kindly preaching the message of Lord Chaitanya Deva and delivering the Western countries which are filled with impersonalism and voidism. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shrivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. I offer my respectful obeisances unto Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Lord Nityananda, Sri Advaita, Gadadhara Pandit, Srivas Thakur, and all devotees of Lord Chaitanya. Jai. So with that, we will start today's class. And the next slide is, showing Isopanishad at a glance. Today we will be discussing verse number 7. And basically this falls in the vision part of the lens, like we can see something like a binocular here on the slide. So we see like the first, lens is showing the vision, then the guidelines, and then last is the prayers. So we are in mantras 6 to 8. So that discusses the knowledge and practice of spiritual vision. So, how a person who is spiritually equipped with spiritual knowledge, how does he look at things? So that is what we are discussing currently. And last week we had Lalitangi Mataji. She gave us a very nice, talk on the different kind of different levels of devotees, Kanishtadikari, Madhyama, Uttamadikari, and how the, all these devotees must actually follow in the footsteps, or anupashyati, as the Sanskrit word says, that we should all follow in the footsteps of the great acharyas, and that's how we should see or look at things, or that's how our vision must be trained to look at things, not just the externals, but look at the spiritual aspect of things. So here is a summary slide of what we saw in the last class. This has also been covered in many other places, including we did verse number 5 in this one, Nectar of Instruction, Upadesh Amrita, where also we discussed the same concepts of the 3 types of devotees. So I'm hoping, we are kind of getting familiar with these concepts of, kinds of devotees, how they deal with people and what is their vision, or how do they look at others. So even in Bhagavad Gita, there is this, in chapter 2, there's a question where Arjuna asks, so how does this realize Dhira? How does he look at other people? How does he walk? How does he talk? Like that. So basically, these are the kind of questions that are being addressed here also. So how does Dhira mean a sober person or a realized person? So it's along the same line. So our scriptures teach how a spiritually advanced person actually behaves. How does he talk? How does he walk? Means it's not like literally trying to walk or talk like that, but it basically means how does he conduct himself. So that's what is the knowledge we are getting here, like what kind of a vision do these spiritually advanced people have. So we saw a few details about how the Kanishta Adhikari is, has his relationship with the deities in the temple. He does not give much importance to the devotees, his relationships with devotees, like that. And the Madhyama Adhikari, and he's also not well versed in scriptures because he's just starting out. So the faith is naturally a little shaky, and he can be easily influenced or swayed by some talks if somebody tries to bring up something which he's not aware of. So the Madhyama Adhikari is, of course, much better read because he's at the preaching level. He tries to preach to people, but then for preaching purposes, he needs to discriminate what are the different categories of people, because that's how he can effectively preach. So he he's friends with the devotees, is merciful to the innocent, and avoids the atheist or like the envious people, like they say. And then he loves the Lord. So that's Madhyama Adhikari, how he deals. And of course, the Uttama Adhikari, he is at such a platform that he does not differentiate, between any kind of, devotees or people. He looks at everybody in an equal vision. By an equal vision, it's not like he's looking at everything, as one person. It's not like that. But all it means is that he looks at the spirit soul inside of each person. So that's what is being meant by Uttamadhikari. And he sees everything in relation to the Supreme Lord. So basically, how he looks at a spirit soul or a person is how close he or she is to, serving the Supreme Lord. So like devotees also come at different levels, like how in with any kind of art or science we go through different levels. So similarly, devotional service also we go through different levels. So this Uttama Adhikari, he can see through easily like what level we are and engage us properly in such a service that we can go closer to Krishna. So they are our well-wishers actually. And then this is done, like it's rightly said, the fourth word of importance was anupashyati. Anu means to follow in, or, like take a submissive position like that. Anupashyati means to see. So you actually see things through the authority. That's what it means. You don't like concoct your own stories or, try to see things by your, speculative understanding, but you resort to what the acharyas have given to us, and then we try to see through the eyes of the self-realized souls, because they have already realized it, right? So that's what is a brief summary of what we saw. And this chapter, this seventh verse, is again giving more details on how a madhyama or an uttamadhikari actually see. It's talking more about the vision. So things may be a little repetitive here and there. So I've tried to keep it at a minimum so we're not repeating the same thing. So the class may be short. So yeah, with that, we will move on to today's verse number 7. Okay. Anybody would like to recite the verse, or?
Shall I try, Mataji?
Please go ahead, Prabhu.
Vision of the Mahabhagavata, Isopanishad, verse 7. Yashmin sarvani bhutani atma va bhut vijanata tatra ko moha ka sukha ekatvam anupashyata. Translation should I read, Mataji?
Yes, please go ahead.
One who always sees all living entities as spiritual sparks in quality, one with the Lord, becomes a true knower of things. What then can be illusion or anxiety for him? Hare Krishna.
Jai, what a beautiful verse, right? So it is showing what is the vision of a Mahabhagavata. So we are continuing from where we left off last week. So the verse goes, Yasmin sarvani bhutani atmaiva bhut vijanatah tatra ko moha kashoka ekatvam manupashyatah. One who always sees all living entities as spiritual sparks in quality, one with the Lord, becomes a true knower of things. What then can be illusion or anxiety for him? So at the outset, if we did not get this translation from Srila Prabhupada, if you just went by the Sanskrit, ekatvam anupashyataha, that it, in one sense, it kind of borders, on a Mayavad concept, right? Like everything is one, through oneness. But then here, very clearly, Srila Prabhupada, to actually guide us in the proper direction of understanding, in the word for word translation also, if you see, he says ekatvam is oneness and quality. He qualifies that oneness right away, right from the beginning, so that we don't get these questions in mind as to, are we, merged into something one, or we don't have an existence by ourselves. So Srila Prabhupada makes it easy for us in this way, wherein he, again, also in the translation, he is translating it as in quality one with the Lord. So very carefully, Srila Prabhupada gives us the small, kind of secrets or truths away, though we may not notice it at the outset, but he gives us all these, esoteric truths in a platter, very ready for us to eat and digest in that way. So that's the beauty of Srila Prabhupada's translations here. So like I had already, told in one of the other classes, like Isopanishad is also one of the scriptures which Mayavads also, try to read and study and understand, but they derive a totally different meaning, out of the verses. But luckily, we have our acharyas who give us the correct understanding to understand what these, words, specific words like ekatvam and all that means here. So let's move on. So what is the vision of a spiritually advanced devotee? Except for the Madhyama Adhikari and the Uttama Adhikari, no one can correctly see the spiritual position of a living being. So, for example, we can, when we go on the, when we're driving on the road, we see many cars, around us, right? But do we identify each car by the car, or do we, also look at the person, the driver inside the car? So we understand that, though there are so many cars on the road, there is a driver behind, the wheel who is actually driving the car. So similarly, the Uttama Adhikari and the learned Madhyama Adhikari, they understand this concept. The Madhyama Adhikari, he understands this. The Uttama Adhikari is also realized, he not only understands, but he knows it exactly how to apply it, and he can recognize and he can realize that. So they can recognize, that the car is different from the driver, right? We also understand that the car is different from the driver. So they're able to differentiate that the externals, a truck may be like, we may see a semi on the road, which is like pretty large, and then we can see somebody riding a bike like that. And then somebody may be driving a sedan. So different people may be going, driving in different cars, but we can see that there is a driver behind the wheel. No matter what the shape or size of the car is. So similarly, the Mahabhagavatas, like the Madhyamadhikari and the Uttamadhikaris, they are able to recognize, they're able to identify that behind this external facade of a body, there is actually a soul, and that's how they look at everybody in oneness, that is in the quality, like the soul by nature is Satchit Ananda, the soul itself. And this is derived from the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, who is also Satchit Ananda. So in quality, in that terms, we are actually, one with the Supreme Lord, because we have those qualities which the Supreme Lord has in minute quantities, of course. The other example which is given in the purport is a very popular, and perhaps you all may have heard it many times by now, is that of the fire and the spark. We have a picture here of the fire and the spark. So we see that the sparks are coming out of the fire. So when the sparks come and fall out of the fire, do you think they have an existence? They perish, right? Once they, sorry?
Yeah, they vanish.
Yeah, they perish. So similarly, when we try to separate ourselves from the Supreme Personality of Godhead, we get into this, we fall down into this material realm, where we are kind of disassociated, or in our own, frame of mind, believing in Maya, believing in illusion, and believing in our bodies and what we see around us, right? So this fire and the spark, they must, the spark, when as long as it stays with the fire, then it holds its position like as a spark. But once it tries to move away from the fire, it loses, right? It kind of disappears or vanishes, like Prabhu said. So that is the idea, we are qualitatively one. So this fire and the spark, they are qualitatively one, but then the idea is to work, in tandem or in unity with the fire. That's when the spark will actually be active, or that will even exist. We will see more about this concept in the later slides, but I just wanted to bring out this analogy which is stated there. And then we also see the other analogy of sun and fire. So sun is like a huge ball of fire, right? When we see a small fire in front of us, what happens when we pour water on the fire? We can put out the fire, right? When we pour water on the fire. But do you think we can throw buckets of water, pails of water on the sun and put out the sun? No, right? It's not possible. So similarly, the Supreme Personality of Godhead is compared to the sun, and then, we are compared to this small fire which we can easily put out with water, but then we cannot put out the sun. It's a huge ball of fire, which is like beyond our reach, like that. So the Supreme Personality of Godhead, though the sun and the fire, the properties are the same, right? The fire also emits heat and light. The sun also emits heat and light. And, the properties are the same, but still the differences, in the size, the quantity. And we have seen this example in previous classes too. So let's move on to what comes next in this understanding. So we understand in this slide that in quality, we are, same, one and the same with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But let's see what differentiates. So another, a few scriptural, verses in this regard. As a person puts on new garments, giving up old ones, the soul similarly accepts new material bodies, giving up the old and useless ones. Can anybody guess what verse we are referring to here from Bhagavad Gita?
Dehino yasmin yata dehe. Sloka number second chapter.
Yeah, that's the second one. How about the first one? I have, as a person puts on new garments.
Vasamshi jirnani yata vihaya.
Yes, Vasamshi jirnani yata vihaya. So like I was giving, thank you, Mataji. I was giving the analogy of how, inside of each car, there is a driver. So similarly, we also, when we see people, they are wearing clothes, right? So we understand that this is external, actually. It is not a part of the person, he or she, like the verse says, he may put on new garments and give up old ones. So similarly, these Madhyama Adhikari and the Uttama Adhikari, they are able to see this in the proper perspective. So when they see people of different color or different, types, or, short or tall, or any kind of people, they're not actually looking at the external physical appearance, but they recognize the spirit soul inside of each of this person. Like I'd already, mentioned, the Uttama Adhikaris, they are able to see how far, like I said, there are different levels of devotees. So when they look at, different people, the Uttama Adhikaris are able to see, okay, this devotee is that close to Krishna. So how do I take him even more closer? And somebody else is at another level. So, how do I get him or her closer to Krishna? So their vision is in that way, trying to get people closer to Krishna. So they don't, they are only looking to engage the spirit soul in the service of Krishna. So they're not necessarily looking at their bodily features or external features. So in that sense, they're very compassionate, because they have this tendency to look beyond material things, to look beyond the externals, because these externals are the ones which, kind of give the discriminatory attitude in any person. And, it gives that raga, dvesha, these kind of dualities, right? So those dualities come because of the externals, the external energy. When the external energy is in play, like Maya, whenever there's material energy involved, there is always duality involved. So, but these Uttama Adhikaris and the Madhyama Adhikaris, they operate at this level where they actually, they don't focus on these externals, but they're actually looking at the spirit soul and how they can take the spirit soul closer to Krishna. And then the other verse, like Prabhuji said, as the embodied soul continually passes in this body from boyhood to youth to old age, the soul similarly passes into another body at death. The self-realized soul is not bewildered by such a change. So what happens is, like we can see on the picture on the right, like, there's a new baby born, and then it's crawling, and then grows into a young boy, and then into youth, and then to man, and then, old age, and, disease and death and things like that. And then the cycle keeps going. But then the self-realized soul, they are not disturbed, dhiras tatra na muhyati. So they're not disturbed by seeing the cycle. They understand that this is just like the previous verse, which we saw, that as a person puts on new garments and, he gives up old ones, so they understand that, this is just a cycle which is going on like this. So they're not disturbed by this. So when they understand like this, generally we see this attitude, or we see this supposing there is a huge semi or a truck going on a road, and then there is a small bike, a biker also going on the road. Who has more power? Does the truck have more power or the small biker?
Naturally, truck Mataji.
Yes, truck, right? So they, the tendency generally is that because they understand that they are powerful, and they try to intimidate the drivers off the road like that, and they understand that they're powerful, and they know that because of whatever like I said, the truck is the material body like that. So we can also consider the same analogy with a human being. Like, for example, when we're walking, we are kind of much bigger than a small ant crawling on the road or on the street or on the ground, right? So we don't even think twice. We may be stepping on an ant like that, right? But when a person is self-realized and he sees every living entity for what they are, he sees the spirit soul, what happens is they give up this threatening attitude. So naturally, when a person feels more powerful than others, what happens is that tendency to threaten or intimidate others, automatically comes within them, right? Like we also see bullies, like that, who try to intimidate others like that. But then this sober person or the self-realized soul, he does not have this kind of a threatening disposition. So they don't, because they don't recognize with the external body, they are only concerned with the spirit soul, and so they don't have this kind of a threatening disposition. So this is another quality of madhyam adhikari or uttam adhikari, because they can easily see through the externals. So they're not threatening to others, they are very compassionate on the other hand. And let's see some more qualities or advantages, like how I have put it there. So what happens, when you develop this kind of a spiritual vision, which is mentioned in this chapter, like the Madhyama or the Uttama Adhikari, who is able to see through things, what happens is one can easily develop detachment. There is no problem with the opposite gender. So ours is a philosophy wherein out of the 4 ashramas, 3 ashramas are actually emphasizing celibacy, right? Only one ashrama, which is that one, which allows us to practice non-celibacy, which is the one?
Grahastha Ashrama.
Yes, Grahastha ashrama is the ashrama where, one can have children and so forth. But brahmachari and then vanaprastha and sannyasi, all these ashramas are actually they guide us to follow celibacy actually. So this kind of a spiritual vision, when you can look beyond the body and not look at the externals, that also helps you actually to overcome this problem, or to get detachment, to follow this or practice detachment when you're looking at the opposite gender. So you're not attracted by the externals of the body like that. So we have a few examples with the pictures on the right. So what is on this rightmost picture? Can anybody identify the personality we are seeing here? It's very famous and common.
Sukadev Goswami.
Yeah, Shukadev Goswami. So Shukadev Goswami, he actually, when he appeared, he was 16 years of age. He did not want to actually come out of his mother's womb. Like the scriptures say, the babies, when they are conceived in the womb, actually they do get a glimpse of the Paramatma, and and so they do not want to actually come to the external world. And I was just listening recently to one class by Sri Vaishnava Acharya, and he was saying that every time when we see that a child is born, we see that he or she cries, right? And then we think, okay, the child is normal, his lungs are functioning well, and the child has to cry. That's considered a symptom of good health of a newborn, like that. But he was saying that there is more deeper meaning to it than like what we understand, like the child is healthy. It actually is not really happy entering into this world actually. So that's the reason why the child cries like that. So Shukadev Goswami also had a long gestation, and when he appeared, he was 16 years of age. But he was a completely, totally self-realized soul. So he just walked about in his baby suit, and he did not care. There were some women who were bathing in the river close by, and he could not differentiate between men or women or anything like that. So he absolutely walked past them without batting an eyelid. And the women did not feel that kind of a shame when they would see others, and they did not bother to cover themselves up, because they understood that this is like a Mahabhagavata walking amongst us, like that. So Shukadev Goswami is one such self-realized soul, who could not differentiate, who did not differentiate between men or women, or based on the external body features. So that is how, and Uttamadhikari also, that is the platform where they function on. They don't really pay attention to any of this. So I was reading one pastime with Srila Prabhupada, where somebody asked Srila Prabhupada, like all these god men, these saintly people, they perform different kind of magic. They do something and give some, something like a prasad to others, like that. Out of thin air, they try to bring something and give to people. So so one person asked Prabhupada, so what is your magic? What magic can you do? So Srila Prabhupada said, I can be in a room, full of naked women, but still not get distracted. So that was Srila Prabhupada. So, Uttama Adhikari is there like that. We also see, when there is a child, when there's a young child, like even a boy, they sit with their mothers, right? Wherever they go, they sit with their mothers. Even in the temple, like when they're very young, they don't go and sit on the men's side necessarily. They're still sitting with their mothers, and after a certain age, they grow up, and then they understand, okay, I should sit on the men's side, like that, right? So they don't have until such time that kind of a vision to differentiate, right? They're still children, and they look at everybody as a person. I mean, they're not differentiating based on the external features. So this is another example which is also given how, like the Uttamadhikari's vision is just like how these children also, they don't differentiate. They sit with their mothers wherever they go. They are going with their mothers, like that. But after a certain age, they're like, they don't want to come that side, right? They go to the other side. And I remember my niece, when she was 5 years old, 5 or 6 years old, she started doing boys, boys, girls, girls. It's like she was trying to differentiate. Until then, she was not. So it's very common, right? It's we see that among our children also, like that. So this there are a few other examples which are also there on the picture. On the bottom right, anybody can figure who that is in the picture?
Shurpanaka.
Yeah, Shurpanaka. Very nice. Who was that?
Sudevi.
Yeah, so Shurpanaka, what did she want to do, Sudevi?
Kill Sita and marry Ram.
Yeah, she wanted to marry Ram, right? So is that, like good, or what do you think of it? Is it good, or is it bad intention?
Bad intention.
Yeah, but many others also, like the gopis, they desired to marry Krishna, right? So was that a good intention then?
Yeah.
Yeah, but why is, when Shurpanaka trying to marry Ram, why is it considered a bad intention? She's after all trying to marry the Lord.
Because she
Similar.
wants to,
Okay, go ahead.
to kill Sita.
Yeah, that's right. Because she wanted to actually, go over Sita and marry Ram. That's a great reason. And in this other picture, which we see here, can anybody recognize who are these characters? I mean, who are these personalities? Sorry.
Kubja and Krishna.
Very nice. Thank you, Mataji. So what do you have to say? What did Krishna do to Kubja? I mean, what's been shown in this picture?
Actually, when Kubja, like, she wants to, be with Krishna, and Krishna goes to Kubja's home, and then Krishna just touches her, and he just makes her like, actually, when she gives the sandal paste, then Krishna, just makes her, when he touches her, she becomes a beautiful woman, actually.
True. Thanks, Mataji. Yeah. So you can see Krishna is putting his foot on her and, pushing her chin up. She's actually a hunchback. So actually, it's Shurpanaka who actually, took this form of Kubja in the next birth. And then, Krishna actually makes her into a beautiful woman again by just touching her. But what was the problem? Like we saw the gopis, they also want to marry Krishna. They want to dance with Krishna. They want to spend time with Krishna. But then that is not considered wrong. I mean, that is considered Maha, like the supreme love for Krishna in that Madhurya Rasa, But then why these women, when they try to go for the Lord, when they wanted to enjoy with the Lord, it was not looked at it. We don't look at it as a good, as a great form of devotional service. On the contrary, we looked at Shurpanaka as a demoness, right? When she tried to do that like that. So there's a slight difference, between the intention or the bhava. So when Krishna and the gopis, they, when what they are exhibiting or what they have in between them is love or prema, and what these personalities, Shurpanaka and Kubja, they have is lust. So how do we differentiate, between this love and lust? So what qualifies something as love and what qualifies something as lust? Does anybody want to take a chance and answer?
Love is where our intention is to please the Supreme Lord. Lust is to please self.
Awesome, Prabhu.
Yeah.
Yeah, you hit it on the nail. So, like how nicely Prabhuji explained, lust is when we have selfish desires. Like Shurpanaka, she wanted to enjoy with Ram and she wanted to enjoy, that was her intention. Similarly, Kubja too, the intention was for her own pleasure. But then the gopis, what they do, they are always thinking of the pleasure or always thinking what Krishna wants. What will, will Krishna like if I do this? Do you think Krishna will appreciate this? What can I do to make him more happy? So like Prabhuji rightly explained, that is the difference between love. So theirs is love, and this is what Kubja or Shurpanaka had is called Kama Prayana. So it's not love, but it is lust in that sense, though it is for the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So, but it still, qualifies under Kama Prayana, not Prema, like that. So we see, from these examples that in this material world, there is Purusha and Prakriti. We understand, there is Purusha and Prakriti. So what do you think the living entities, do they qualify as Purusha or Prakriti? Like men and women, do they qualify as Purusha or do they qualify as Prakriti in this material world?
Prakriti.
Yeah, actually, we are supposed to be Prakriti, but then we all have this Purusha Bhav, right? We want to enjoy something, basic quality of a living entity is Anandamaya Abhyasat. Like, he always is searching for peace or happiness like that, and pleasure seeking like that. So who does not want to be happy, right? Nobody wants to be unhappy in this world. Everybody's seeking happiness in that way. So in that sense, everybody has, this kind of Purusha Bhava where they want to actually enjoy things, even be it a man or a woman, both of them are, trying to enjoy things in this world. The only difference is that, a man may be more, like, may show it more outwardly, like that. A woman may do it in a very kind and soft manner, but then, both of them are looking or seeking for their materially minded, I'm talking about, they're seeking for their own pleasure, in that way. So this kind of Purusha Bhava, it exists, when we are in this material planet, it exists even among the women as well as the men. Both of them, they want to achieve something, they want to do something, they have their desires, they want to be proven great, they want to, enjoy things like that, right? So we see this tendency is there even among women or men in this material planet. However, these Uttama Bhaktas, or or the Madhyama Adhikaris, these people, what they look beyond this, they don't have this kind of an enjoyment tendency per se. All they want to do is give pleasure to Lord Krishna. And and so what happens is, because of this is, when they do not differentiate with the opposite gender, or when they look at everybody with an equal vision, they also cultivate respect and love for all. That is another advantage, or that is another quality of an Uttama Adhikari, that they have inherent love and respect for all, just because they do not look at the externals, or they're not covered by this Purusha Bhava. Like the first point on the slide says that they develop detachment and they don't have this Purusha Bhava, right? But the other side of it is, not only do they develop detachment, doesn't mean that they hate the other person, but they also respect and love everybody. Just like how parents, for example, when a child is coming back, say from school or something, the mother takes enough care to make something for the child which the child may like. Or supposing the child is just coming back from college after spending some time out of town, like that, the mother makes enough preparations, like, okay, my child is coming and he or she may like this, so let me make this, so when the child comes, they will have a good time, like that. So this parents, also they have that kind of a detached, but love, the pure love for the child. Like they say that Vatsalya Bhava is actually gives kind of a glimpse into the actual prema aspect which is there in the spiritual world. So it kind of gives a tiny glimpse, the Vatsalya Bhava, the parental love, because this is also unconditional. Even before the child asks the parent is generally ready, right, to provide all facilities for the child, cook for the child, make what they like. They know exactly what the child wants, and what he or she may like. So whenever the child is coming home, they make sure they make all those comforts are there for the child, and what he or she likes is there. So like that, they have true love, and they're true well wishers, in that sense, for the child. They look out for the child, even though the child may be angry with the parents or whatever, for whatever reasons, but the parents are always in their hearts, looking for the welfare and safety of the child. Similarly, the sadhus also, they are suhradam, they are basically looking out for the welfare. They don't differentiate among anybody, but they're looking out for the welfare of a person in terms of spiritual context. Like they want the person to go back to Godhead, go back to Krishna, and do his or her service. So the sadhu is also, because of this aspect of respect and love, which comes as when you get an equal vision. This is another quality which they develop, and they have pure love for everybody. So once there's this anecdote with Srila Prabhupada I'd like to share. Once when Srila Prabhupada was giving a class, he saw a caterpillar was crawling on the ground. So he instructed one of his disciples to bring a leaf so that the caterpillar can climb on the leaf. And then he told them that just put the caterpillar out in its own environment. So Srila Prabhupada, like when we go to that kind of stage, we look at with compassion at all living entities, being it a caterpillar or an ant or a cockroach, or like that. We look with compassion at all living entities. We don't want to make harm to any living entity, like that. So Srila Prabhupada, he advised that go put it out, and he wanted to return the caterpillar back to its own environment. So the sadhus also, they want to return us to where we belong, to Krishna, where we can serve happily, because this material planet, everything is like temporary, and everything will disappear eventually. So our eternal position, constitutional position, is to serve Krishna, and that's what they are looking out for us to, like how with this example of caterpillar we understand. And also these like the Upadesh Amrita, we saw this was Drishthe Svabhava Jayante Vapushashcha Doshehi. Like an Uttama Adhikari, he does not look at the Vapushashcha Doshehi, like the body, whatever defects in the body or external physical appearance, the Uttamadhikari does not look at all this. So when such a person, the kings of those times, like in the Vedic ages, these kings were not only, Kshatriyas, but they were also well learned. They took training from Brahmanas, and they had advisors, their gurus, take the Kul Guru, and different kinds of gurus. They had to give advice on different affairs of the state. So they were advised by these Brahmins who were well learned, in the art of, in the science of spirituality, and they knew to give the proper advice to the kings like that. And the kings also were very well read. They took training, in learning all these sciences of how to manage a kingdom, how to be fair and just to people like that. So in Vedic times, they had this kind of an equal vision because of their spiritual, because they were spiritually advanced. They had this equal vision, and they could rule properly. And also because of this, what happened was that, they exactly knew how to tackle these issues of war and enmity and things like that. So we see in the current age that there's so many wars, happening around here and there, lot of injustice happening, where you feel that this is really uncalled for, like for no reason, actually, there was happening and things like that. But then if you develop this kind of a uttama, the spiritual vision, which the Isopanishad is talking about, it's easy to avoid such situations in material world, which gives misery, which causes enmity, war. There's racism, we see a lot of racial and misconduct in the news, and we read so many things, right? Because it's so many things are actually based on the external appearance, right? All these kind of problems, this war and racism and these kind of things are based on external appearance. But then when we gain a spiritual vision, we can overcome all these kind of problems easily, right? Because we are just seeing the soul for who she or he is. So that is another, quality of an Uttamadhikari or Madhyamadhikari, who can see through the soul. And this is another example which is quoted by devotees in view of this aspect. I'll just read through this slide. The Mahabhagavata, the great devotee, sees oneness in the sense that he sees everything as the energy of the Supreme Lord. Energetic and the energy are the same. So, this is another aspect, or this is another perspective to that same aspect of seeing everything as one. How do they see it as one? The energy and the energetic are same, or they are not non-different, because can there be heat and light without fire? A simple example.
No, Madhu.
No, right? So whenever there is heat and light, automatically, we understand that there is fire there, like that. So this energy and the energetic, they cannot be separated like that. We cannot separate them, because the heat and light cannot exist by themselves without the energetic. So that is the idea also being conveyed here, that in that sense, they are one and the same, because they doesn't have an existence separately of of each other like that. So in this context, this verse is from the Chaitanya Charitamrita. Radha Purna Shakti, Krishna Purna Shaktiman, Dui Vastu Bheda Nai Shastra Paraman, Radha Krishna Aiche Sada Eka Iswarupa, Leela Rasa Swadite Dhare Dui Rupa. So this is from Chaitanya Charitamrita, which translates into, there is no difference between the energy and the energetic. Shakti, Shaktiman, Abhinna. Therefore, there is no difference between Radha and Krishna. Radha is Purna Shakti and Krishna is Purna Shaktiman. So there is no difference, but Leela Rasa Ashwadite Dhare Dui Rupa. To relish the mellow of pastimes, the two bodies are there, Radha and Krishna, otherwise they are one. We also see, right, in the picture on the right, how Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he is actually having both Radha and Krishna Tattva in him. So for the sake, like it is mentioned very clearly in Chaitanya Charitamrita, that for the mellow, to relish the mellows of the pastimes, the two bodies are there, Radha and Krishna, but otherwise they are one. And we are also familiar with how Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu actually is Krishna himself, but in the mood of Srimati Radharani. He wants to understand the, intricate mellows which the devotees feel towards the Lord. So that's why he is in this form. So it's not very difficult for us to understand, right, how Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Krishna himself. In the mood of Srimati Radharani. So this is a scriptural example, or a scriptural example which is given for us to understand how the energetic and the energy are the same. They don't have existence without each other, like that. And yeah, so we saw a few aspects of how Mahabhagavatas, they think and how they conduct themselves, what are their qualities. Next, we'll move on to the next part of the verse, which talks about ekatvam anupashyataha. So this is actually translated as alignment, by Srila Prabhupada in the purport, how one aligns with the Supreme Lord. When we say ekatvam, or, are one and the same, it actually means one in alignment. So there is this example of salt, which is there in a drop of water, versus the ocean, so which is given there. So they have the same qualities, the salt in a drop of water and the ocean water themselves, they have the same quality, but they only differ in the quantity, right? So this is a very common kind of analogy we have seen many times. And Srila Prabhupada draws our attention to a very nice point in the purport. If the individual living being were equal to the Supreme Lord, both qualitatively and quantitatively, there would be no question of his being under the influence of material energy. So this is such a powerful statement Srila Prabhupada makes in the purport, actually, that we see that he says, if, we were equal to God, qualitatively, ekatvam, right? This verse is talking of ekatvam. If we were to take the meaning that we are equal to the God, in all respects, qualitatively and quantitatively, will we ever come under Maya? Do you think we'll come under Maya if we were equal to the Supreme Lord, if we were supreme?
No, Mataji.
No, why not?
Because Krishna controls Maya. So Krishna can't get under.
Beautiful, Sudevi. Thank you so much. Yes. So if Maya were to control us, then are we supreme? No, right? We are subordinate to Maya. So then there's no meaning to this word supreme, right? Supreme means you are on the top. There's nobody more than you, nobody higher than you. You control everything, right? So the absolute truth is having the controller, potency also, Ishvara. So it's not just Ishvara, but also the absolute truth is, not only has the Ishvara potency, but also he is the source, or Janmadyasya yathonmayadi tartaha. He's the source of everything, right? Ham sarvasya prabhu, like everything comes from Krishna. So not only is there a controller potency, it's just one aspect, of the absolute truth. So like Sudevi rightly answered, if we were lower, than Maya, and if we came under the clutches of Maya, then we would no longer be supreme, right? So in that sense, it is very obvious and it's very clear that, we are not one with the Supreme Lord, though we may have the qualitatively, we may have the qualities of the Supreme Lord to some extent, but we are infinitesimal and the Supreme Lord is infinite, right? So there is no comparison in that way, quantity and the quality is large and different. So when the Mayavadis, when they try to interpret this verse and try to think that, that the Supreme Lord and them are ekatvam, like it says ekatvam anupashyata, and they derive another meaning of it, they're actually doing it in a not in a shastric way, like the Bhagavad Gita says, avyaktam yaktimapanam manyante mam abuddhayaha. Abuddhayaha means somebody who is not very learned, somebody who is not wise. Abuddhayaha, what does he think? Avyaktam vyaktim apannam. So everything is, there's no person. That's what the Mayavads think. Avyaktam, from the unmanifest, the manifest has come. That's what they think. When they think of the Lord. So, but then what does Krishna say? Abuddhayaha, they are manyantima. Abuddhayaha, they are not like learned people. They're not looking with the correct vision like that, right? So, ekatvam anupashyataha here means alignment, like I was earlier mentioning, alignment in the sense, Prabhupada gives this example of family and a nation. Like, for example, in the family, everybody is following the orders of the head of the family or the father. They align their lifestyle. If the father says this is how we should be doing this is how we should be doing that, they align their the wife and the children. They align their values or their activities to what is being laid out literally by the father, like that, right? So the whole family operates on one common interest. Is what happens if everybody has their own interest in the family and does not try to follow one common interest, then the family breaks apart easily, right? Like we see, especially in this Kali Yuga, we see a lot of single parents who are not able to align their interests together, right? Everybody has their own interest, their own purusha bhava. They want to enjoy things differently. They don't want to make a compromise or do something which is beyond, which is something they don't like for the best interest of the family. So and this time what happens when the family interests are not aligned, this leads to actually destruction of the whole family fabric, right? People get a divorce, or they try to live separately, or we see a lot of single parents around us, and ultimately the child also suffers, right? Because he or she is not able to get the love of both parents. So they try to divide their time, 3 days in a week stay with the mom, 3 days in a week stay with the dad, like that. So many problems arise because there is not this concept of alignment or ekatvam, which is being mentioned here. So this is an analogy Srila Prabhupada gives. Just as in the family, the interest of all members is one, or in a nation, the national interest is one. So, people are also very fanatic about their nations, right? They want to do something good for their country. Like, for example, when we, become citizens or something, we take an oath that whatever happens, we'll stay loyal and we'll serve the country. We will do this for the country. We'll do that for the country, like that. So we take oath and we try to follow on what all we have promised, like that, because we want to cultivate this one national interest and not divide the nation, like that. So this is the meaning of ekatvam anupashyata. What Prabhupada is trying to say in the purport is, we align. When we say that we become one with the Supreme Lord, what it actually means is that we align our interests with the Lord's interests. So whatever we do, we are doing it for the pleasure of Krishna. So if Krishna likes something, we try to do that. So we align our interests on the same line. So that way, there is peace and harmony in our lives. Otherwise, when we try to work independently, or when we try to enjoy ourselves separately from Krishna, what happens? We are put into this material world where we are samsara cycle, right? We are just repeatedly going through this cycle of life and death, life and death, life and death, like that, because we are still having the tendency to enjoy independently from Krishna. We are not aligning our interests along the line of what is how to serve Krishna, which is our actual constitutional position. So that's what Srila Prabhupada is trying to bring in, by when he mentions alignment with Krishna's interest. This is what he's trying to explain here, and that is how Prabhupada is describing this ekatvam anupashyataha. How do we understand ekatvam anupashyataha? It is by aligning our interests with that of Lord Krishna's. I'll move on. This is a little digression I took, because this actually has some really interesting purport. So when a person, he develops in this Uttamadhikari platform, how can he develop this kind of a vision So there are three words which are defined or which are actually used by Srila Prabhupada in this context: jnana, vijnana, and vishesha jnana. And this is actually described in the purport for this Srimad Bhagavatam verse 421:32. I'll just read the translation. This may seem like a slight digression, but then again, it is related. I just would, the next slide is the purport, which will actually tie all these things together. How a Uttamadhikari or a self-realized soul, how does he look at things? So, he has jnana, vijnana, and vishesha jnana with him. Not just jnana, not just vijnana, but vishesha jnana, all three kinds of knowledge he is equipped. And that's what helps him have this kind of a vision. So the translation is like this: when a devotee takes shelter at the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he is completely cleansed of all misunderstanding or mental speculation, and he manifests renunciation. This is possible only when one is strengthened by practicing bhakti yoga. Once having taken shelter at the root of the lotus feet of the Lord, a devotee never comes back to this material existence, which is full of the threefold miseries. We also see this verse, right, in Bhagavad Gita. Does it remind you of any verse? Once having taken shelter at the root of the lotus feet of the Lord, a devotee never comes back. Yad gatvana nivartante. Does it ring a bell to anybody?
Taddama Paramam Mama.
Yes, Mataji, thank you. Yes, so that is practically the same thing Prabhupada is saying in this translation. And I need one of your help to read this purport, if you can, please. Maybe one person can read the first paragraph and another can read the second one. Any volunteers?
Yes, Mataji.
Go ahead.
In this verse, the word Vijnana is specifically important. Jnana, the knowledge of the spiritual identity that one attains when he does not consider himself to be the body, is explained in Bhagavad Gita as Brahma Bhuta, the revival of spiritual realization. In the conditioned state of material existence, one cannot be spiritually realized because he identifies himself materially. The understanding of the distinction between the material existence and spiritual existence is called jnana.
Okay, can we just pause there a little? Is this line clear to everybody? The understanding of the distinction between material existence and spiritual existence is called jnana. So what does this mean? What's Prabhupada trying to tell us here?
The understanding of the distinction between the material.
Yeah, it's a question for all, not just Sudevi. Sudevi, thank you for reading, actually. So anybody wants to share what they think Prabhupada is alluding to here? Yeah, so jnana basically refers to the fact that, when we distinguish that we are not this body, but we are the spirit soul. So that is what is being defined as jnana, here by Srila Prabhupada. Okay, go on, Sudevi, please. After coming from there.
Mataji, I have one question. So Yadgatva Nanivartante Taddama Paramam Mama, right? So but the pure devotees, right? Pure devotees, like the Lord's eternal associates, Nitya Siddha, they are all part of the Vaikuntha or Goloka, right? So in that case, when they come back, but they can come back, right, to the material world to play the pastimes with Krishna. But here it says like they never come back.
Yeah, the Lord engages them in pastimes. Like we read also, right? Like Jaya Vijaya, they were the guards there, at Vaikuntha, the gates of Vaikuntha. But then they took like 3 lives, right? As demons. Because if you go deeper into the scriptures and read more Acharya's commentaries, we see that, Krishna had this itch to fight, actually. So he wanted to fulfill that itch, and so he made the 4 Kumaras. They were also realized souls, right? They were self-realized souls. They were there. Why would they get angry and curse if they're self-realized? Why would they do that? They wouldn't be cursing, right? So it is like when Krishna, he engages his devotees. So when devotees are so advanced, he just engages them in his pastimes for his pleasure. So he just uses them like that. And that's what the Srimad Bhagavatam, if you read 3rd canto, the pastime of Jaya Vijaya and the Kumaras, we can understand in the purport, so beautiful purports. Actually, we were just reading it, on last Saturday. We had some devotees over and we were reading. It's just amazing, the purports, like Srila Prabhupada, how he explains everything. So it's very nice. Yeah, we should perhaps sometime read that also. Mataji, you have any other question? Hope that helped.
Actually, no, Mataji. No. But here it says clearly that they will never come back, right? So the one that you said that because Lord has the wish that he wanted to fight, that's why he do. But it is like contemplating, right? I mean, like the whatever the message it is there in this Bhagavad Gita thing, and then here like again the Lord is getting his associates to the material world. So
yes, Mataji. And the correct way perhaps to understand that would be, a devotee in the true sense of devotion or bhakti to Krishna doesn't actually aspire that he or she must go to Vaikuntha. They're happy wherever they are, as long as they're serving the Lord. So when the service or association of devotees is, taken away from a person, that is what hurts a devotee more than, they are hungry for service. So wherever they are, they want to offer service to Krishna. So pure devotees of the Lord, they actually say, let me also go to hell, as long as I can engage in your service and, deliver the fallen souls. So pure devotees are, they are in that mood. So the Lord uses such, confidential or such intimate devotees in his service like that, because he knows very well, that they are, even when the Nitya Siddhas, when they come to the material planet, though ordinarily we see them, right, as some ordinary human beings, they are still, they are in their eternal positions, their spiritual positions, though externally they behave. The Krishna actually, it's in Chaitanya Charitamrita, it is mentioned, Krishna covers them with that potency, so that they don't, they also behave like ordinary people there, though they are in the material realm and they are Nitya Siddhas, but they are actually Nitya Siddhas, but, they behave in such a way that, like how when Krishna had his pastimes on planet Earth, he would, with his Yoga Maya potency, cover, the, how Mother Yashoda, when she saw the, 3 words inside of Krishna's mouth, she was like, what is happening, like that. She was in a state of shock. And similarly, when Arjuna saw the universal form of the Lord, he was trembling in fear. So all this, is given to confidential associates of the Lord. So they are used by Krishna in his own pastimes. And that's how we understand this, Mataji. So the Bhagavad Gita verse, which says that, that they don't come back into the material world, but if the Lord wishes for them, they would do anything, for the sake of the Lord's pleasure. That's the understanding, Mataji.
okay, Mataji, thank you.
Yeah, and we can take this question even at the end. Oh my God, it's 8:30 already. I need to rush through. Okay, sorry about that. We will get some more clarity, Mataji. There are other senior devotees on the call. Perhaps they can explain better than I do, and you may get more clarity when they explain, but we will touch upon it again in the end of the class, Mataji. Sorry about that. Where were we, Sudevi?
After coming to the platform of Gnana, or the Brahmabhuta state, one ultimately comes to devotional service, in which he completely understands his own position and the position of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This understanding is explained here as Vijnana Vishesha.
Can we pause there for a moment, Sudevi? basically in this line, Prabhupada is saying, after coming to the planet of Jnana, so this is after that, what is the next stage? Or the Brahmabhuta state, one ultimately comes to devotional service. And in this stage, what happens? He completely understands his position and also the position of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And he understands that he needs to do devotional service to the Lord. And what is this called as? Vijnana Vishesha. That's what Srila Prabhupada is explaining here. Then let me, just for want of time, Sudevi, thank you so much for beautifully reading, but I'm trying to rush through here. I just saw it's 8:30. The Lord says, therefore, that knowledge of him is Vijnana, science. So the knowledge of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is Vijnana. What is Jnana? Jnana is the knowledge that we are the spirit soul and not the body. And what is Vijnana Vishesha? Vijnana Vishesha is that we are the eternal servants of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and our constitutional position is to serve him. So this is, a very beautiful way how Srila Prabhupada brings this knowledge, out into the fore in this purport. So this is why I just wanted to bring this to your attention, but I'm not going to read the second part for want of time. There's obviously a lot to discuss, even though it's a very similar verse, but due to the kind mercy of Srila Prabhupada and our acharyas, we have so much of content and material we could discuss on these topics. So I'll move on to the next slide. So the other aspect, which these exalted devotees or these advanced devotees, they develop is one of dependency. So we see that, the Pandavas and they had all, the opulences and everything, but they went through so much of trials and tribulations, and they were always dependent on the Lord. And there is this reference to this, purport, which I wanted to actually go through, but I'm not sure if I'm going to do that now because, I think we're already running out of time and we have a couple of things more to cover. So the point I was trying to, bring out was that when we understand our position with respect to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and when we realize that we are so minute, in front of the Lord, he is all powerful, omniscient, all, he has all these qualities in full, and he's supreme, like how we compare the ocean to a drop of salt water, like that. He is quantitatively so much bigger than us. Then what happens is this tendency of humility and dependency on the Lord automatically comes, like we automatically get this kind of a quality which these Uttama Adhikaris, they are always humble, they know that the Supreme Lord is so so larger than any of us in every aspect, and then we are so minute, we are so infinitesimal compared to the Supreme Lord. So that also gives rise to this tendency of dependency on the Supreme Lord, for any kind of our problems, or to this quality of surrender and humility to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And there is, I'm just trying to rush through. There was another example I wanted to, go over regarding this. Who's in this picture? Anybody knows, like, what personality is here? This is, sorry? Yeah, that's Paundraka. He was trying to imitate Krishna, right? So, when we don't have this vision, the pure vision, we try to imitate the Lord, right? We try to imitate the Lord, we try to imitate like this advanced personalities, we try to do all this. So I wanted to discuss this pastime of Paundraka, how he tried to imitate the Lord, and it's a very funny and hilarious one, but due to want of time, I'm going to be skipping this. I'm sure Sudevi knows the pastime, and later if we have some time, we can have Sudevi describe this pastime for us. So these are some of the qualities, that I'm trying to bring out from Srila Prabhupada's purport here. That one is we get dependency on the Lord. The other one is we don't try to imitate, falsely imitate these great personalities, but we understand anupashyati. We have to follow in their footsteps, but not imitate them. So this is again another beautiful purport related to this pastime, which I was, showing you in, for dependency. Maybe when I just share the slides on the WhatsApp group, we can, perhaps read it on our own. And let me move on to the last slide. A lot of, very strong messages Srila Prabhupada is giving in the purport, especially in the last 2 paragraphs. So I just collected a few of them. A godless civilization arises from illusion, and the result of such a civilization is lamentation. So how powerful the statement Srila Prabhupada is making is that a godless civilization, when we do not, align ourselves to the interests of God, or when we do not recognize the authority of the Lord, what happens? It results in lamentation. So shoka, like in the previous slide when we saw, it says it leads to moha and shoka. When we try to enjoy independently of the Lord, what do we think? Oh, I need to enjoy, right? Like that we have this. So, for example, it's a very crude example I'm giving. So, this enjoyment tendency within of us. So when we see, supposing a nice rasgulla there, we want to enjoy, right? That tendency forces us to eat so much. And then what happens later on, you get an upset stomach or something, like a disease or something. It results in shoka. So this tendency of trying to actually independently enjoy from the Supreme Lord, first gives rise to moha, like the desire or strong, lust in that sense. And then, but then later it gives rise to shoka, right? Like that. In fact, Prabhupada also gives the example of prasava vairagya, the lady, she wants to have a child, as soon as she is married, and she really is happy. But then when the time comes for delivery, it's not easy, right? The labor pains are considered worse than even fire burn pains like that. So then she gets that prasava vairagya, like they say, like she's like, okay, that's it, I've had it enough. I'm not going to have any more babies. This pain is unbearable. And but then again, that moha comes, and then they again have a child, because so this, whenever we have that enjoyment tendency, this moha shoka, they keep alternating, right? So that's what is being emphasized by Srila Prabhupada here. A godless civilization arises from illusion, and the result of such a civilization is lamentation. The results of our activities must be used to serve the interest of the Lord and not for any other purposes. And then he also touches upon this word called Atma Bhuta, which is described in this verse. And he says it's very similar in concept to Brahma Bhuta, which is, described in the Srimad Bhagavad Gita. So Brahma Bhuta Prasannatma na shoshati na kankshati. We know, we are all heard that verse. So basically he says, Prabhupada says that this Brahma Bhuta stage is the first stage, like when we realize, that is the Brahman platform in one sense, where the soul is kind of, in that state where he's kind of neutral and takes a neutral look at everybody. He or she does not differentiate, between people like that. He looks at the spirit soul, does not look at the material body. But then a devotee actually needs to go beyond this Brahma Bhuta stage and then offer devotional service. That's what Srila Prabhupada is actually trying to explain in the purport, that a devotee looks beyond this Brahma Bhuta stage. So he goes one step further and does devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, because both the Supreme Lord and the living entity are personal. So it is not like, you just realize and then merge and then sit there. So he makes this other important point here. Srila Prabhupada makes this other important point where he says that one has to cross this Brahma Bhuta stage of having equal vision and offer service, to the Supreme Lord like that. And because, why is it so? Because we are personal, we are not like impersonal. So he also brings in this concept of personalism in this purport, because we also have the same Satchit Ananda, tendencies or the Satchidananda potency as the Supreme Personality of Godhead has. So the spirit soul is also Satchidananda by nature. But then because of our contact with material nature, we get all this, we are covered by that ignorance, and we try to identify more with the body and with our external surroundings rather than with actually the needs of the soul. So I have just given to it, in the parenthesis, tree and the stomach. So these examples, I'm sure we are all familiar. Like what happens if the different parts of the body, they go on a strike and do not feed the stomach? What if the hand says, I reached out to the food, and I'm the one feeding, so I'm the supreme. And then what if the leg says, okay, I took you there to the food actually, so I'm the supreme. And the eye says, I'm the one who is looking at the food and trying to recognize that this is something which can be eaten. So if all the different organs of the body go on a strike, like Prabhupada gives this anecdote where analogy where different parts of the body go on the strike, and they say, if I don't do, then nobody, I'm the greatest. If I don't do, everybody's going to go hungry. So they try to feed themselves, the arm tries to feed the arm. But what happens after a few days? The body shrivels, right? The body is no longer healthy, it becomes weak, and then they realize that they have to actually feed the stomach to get the nourishment. So similarly, the living entities, we need to understand that we are a spark of the supreme whole, and we need to serve the Supreme Lord, and we need to be in his in his service to actually even maintain our position, our existence. Just like the spark, it doesn't have its existence without the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And of course, the other analogy of the tree, unless you water the roots, the tree does not get nourished. So this is another analogy also, which is commonly used to explain how we are all parts and parcels of the Supreme Lord, like that. And I'm sorry, I'm rushing a little here because it's past time. And just to summarize what we have seen in today's class, so three concepts, like several concepts were discussed, but I've categorized them into three. So oneness, ekatvam. So oneness is energy and energetic. Oneness is in quality and not quantity. And oneness is in interest, alignment, ekatvam anupashyati. So separate interest, what does it lead to? Shoka and moha. And what are the advantages or the qualities of being having this vision of oneness or unity? Is that it brings detachment, and then it also brings humility. It brings compassion to other living entities. So we saw the examples of how family, nation, fire and spark, ocean and a drop. So all these examples we saw. And then not only this thing, the full picture, how do we understand the full picture is that there should be unity in diversity and diversity in unity. And that we saw how Lord Krishna, he enjoys with the gopis in the rasa dance. But then each gopi tends to think that, Lord Krishna is with him, with her only, like that, right? So the Lord, we see that the Lord can manifest in so many different forms, and every person, he can actually reciprocate with every devotee, in the way they want to, in their relationships they want to. So in this way, we see that, there is unity in diversity and diversity in unity. So these are some examples which are actually given in the purport. And I would like to pause here and take any questions, comments, something, because I rushed through a few parts, maybe some things are not clear. So thank you so much, everybody, for giving me this opportunity. And please forgive me if I said something wrong, in the rush of time. So thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji. The class was wonderful. I have like one more question. At the Atma Bhuta and Brahma Bhuta stage, right? You said devotees will be like far like ahead of the Brahma Bhuta stage. Then Atma Bhuta is like what? I didn't.
It's the same, Mataji. That's what Prabhupada says in the purport.
Both are same. Atma Bhuta and Brahma Bhuta are same.
That's what Prabhupada has explained, that they're the same. Okay. That's what he explains. Yeah. And any devotees on the call, Lalitangi Mataji or Preeti, anybody wants to explain the other question Mataji had, Mataji? Like she had a question regarding if people do not come back to planet Earth, then how do devotees come here for pastimes like that?
First of all, very, very beautiful class, Mataji. I like the examples of Kubja and Gopis and Shurpanaka and Shukadeva Goswami. Wonderful class. Very, very enlightening, and so many things we learned, Mataji. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mata. All goes to Shishi Guru and Gauranga. I'm just parroting. It's like taken from senior brahmachari's classes, so I'm just being a parrot. So all
Yeah,
glories
you
to
are
them.
right, Sukha. So definitely, but you make it sweet. When the parrot touches it, it becomes sweet.
I'm Maya Sukha Mataji.
No, Mataji. Thank you so much. I didn't understand the question. Is that
Mataji, you want to perhaps ask your question again, Mataji? Murali Vanamala Mataji.
Sorry. That in that Bhagavad Gita sloka, right?
Yeah.
He says when whoever comes to my abode will never return back. That was the the translation is, right? So but the thing is, I mean, the pure devotees, right, will come back again to into the material world to perform the pastimes, right? Jaya Vijaya came back. They were doing the service there, but still they came back to the material world like that. So that is conflicting, like what Krishna said in that sloka, right?
So, yes, Mati. So that is Krishna's desire to send them. So they don't come, they don't fall down into the material world, or they don't come because of their karma or desire to enjoy. So Krishna desires them to go, like the same way with Tulasi also, right? The story, like Krishna desired that same way with Jaya and Vijay also. He made a pastime and he wanted to fight with demons, and who else can fight with him? Give really a powerful equal fight other than his own associates. So it is on the order of the Lord. So that is embassy going and coming, not like a prisoner. They don't, that's what he mentioned, that Edgatvana Nivartante Taddama Paramamama is for coming here as a prisoner. But the other devotees, when they come with a mission of the Lord. So that is not at all like coming. It is only the desire of the Lord, and they are not touched by the modes either, right? Is that okay, Mataji?
Yeah, Mataji. Yeah. Thank you, Mataji.
Thank you, Mataji, for clearing that up. It does help to hear from a self-realized soul, so we can see that. Yeah,
Mataji. Please, yeah, but very, very nice class, Mataji. Thank you so much once again. Hare Krishna.
Anybody else have any questions or comments?
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandavat Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Very, very beautiful class, Mataji. I like all the examples that you have quoted, and very beautifully said that, when you're together, your interest is one, then everything is fine. If you have individual interest, it is only, it doesn't take you anywhere, just you will be suffering. When you are in unity, you'll be always happy. We were teaching this to children in the kids class also. We are putting the pyramid of the glasses, and then we try to remove one cup from the middle and saying that this glass has a different interest and everything fall down, then it's like that. You have keep your interest together, then everything is happy. Mataji, and I like the Paundraka Vasudeva story.
I said that for my presentation.
Okay.
Oh, cool. That's nice. Do you want to recite that?
No, Mataji. No, Mataji.
Okay.
Yeah, very beautiful class, Mataji. I like everything that you spoke. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. Sorry, thank you for encouraging me always. Sorry, I rushed towards the end. I was like, oh my God, it's already 8:30. So Yeah, they're more beautiful purpose. I will share the slides, but please do take the time to read. It's just so amazing. Share purpose. Anybody else has any questions?
Flavier Mataji saying class is nice. Anita Mataji saying nice class. Thank you everyone for joining. If there are any more questions, if not, we can close the call. It's already 9 o'clock. I mean, close to 9 o'clock CST, EST 10 o'clock. So,
Yeah.
so if there are no more questions, we can close here. I would like to offer my obeisances to Mataji and all the Vaishnavas on the call. Vanchakalpatarabhya Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah. Anantakoti Vaishnavriddhi ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Her Grace Sukha Sagari Mataji ki
All
jai.
good. Shri Guru Srila Prabhupada.
Closing the call, dear devotees, please join next week for verse number